Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Excellence in Childcare podcast by One Place Childcare. My name is Cindy Alexander, and I am so excited to introduce to you today Cindy Vian. She is a big wig, okay? She is the Vice President of Customer Acquisitions over at KidKare by Minute Menu. She works with the Child and Adult Care Food Program in a nonprofit sponsoring way, and she's going to talk to us all about staying in compliance with the food program and how you can benefit from this program. So, Cindy, welcome. We're so happy that you're joining us today. Can you take just a minute and tell us a little bit about your journey into early childhood education
Yes, I'd
and
love to.
KidKare?
Thanks, Cindy, for inviting me in to speak with you today. I am a passionate advocate of early childhood education and family childcare, as well as the Child and Adult Care Food Program. So I started my career in family daycare in my home and soon recognized that I was having a real impact in the early education of young children. And I just found it to be the most inspiring place to be in my career. And then from there, I grew my organization into owning and operating my own childcare centers before migrating into the nonprofit world and acting as a sponsoring organization for other childcare entities to participate in the Child and Adult Care Food Program. And so that's how I got my start. And back in the day, we all did all of the CACFP paperwork on actual paper. And I had the good pleasure of meeting the team at KidKare by Minute Menu and implementing their software. And it literally revolutionized the way that we were able to help our providers serve healthy, high quality meals to their children.
Awesome. That is a great story. I have a similar story. I started in family. I owned a center, and then I migrated into the world of marketing, which, in creating content and, all of that type of stuff to help childcare centers. So, we started, on a similar path. That's really cool. So I am sure that most providers out there know about the food program, the Child and Adult Care Food Program. But I personally, this blows my mind, I personally know several that do not participate, or they choose to not participate because they think it might be too much work, or they wonder if it's really worth it for the hours that you spend collecting. And I just cannot believe that they're not utilizing this great resource. Can you tell us a little bit about the benefits of being on the food program and maybe how to get started if somebody
Yes,
wants to
absolutely. I would
join?
love to. And first and foremost, I think you're right. All of us are very familiar with the National School Lunch Program, but most of America, including parents, providers, childcare advocates, and the lay people out there, don't recognize that that program is extended to children in care settings early on. So all family childcare providers and even some unregulated residential, like relative care providers, can access the food program. And it's like giving yourself a raise. You can actually make more money
Mm-hmm.
and be more profitable by participating in this subsidized program. It is an entitlement program. It does require some paperwork. And what I would tell you is everything in the world involves some type of paperwork. And so keeping records is not difficult. And now that we have technology to do it for us, you can do it right from your smartphone. You don't have to be tech savvy. If you can send a text message, or if you're looking at pictures on Facebook, you can record your attendance and meal counts and get reimbursed for those meals. And it's meaningful to every child right now, particularly in this day and age after the pandemic, where so many families are struggling to keep food on the table, to keep, enough money in their pocket to afford their house and their car and everything else that's included. Every family can really use this program. And so I'm happy to talk about the benefits with you. One of the things that we know through the CACFP is that high quality meals enables the young mind to grow and learn at an accelerated rate. It encourages good educational outcomes. But think about it like this: a child in family childcare or in a child care setting of any type receiving healthy meals and snacks is more likely to actually achieve its full development and go out into the world to become our leaders of tomorrow. So we all have a vested interest in this program. What it really means is applying to your state agency. Every single state has an agency that implements the child care food program in their state. It's not difficult to get started. They'll give you a list of good sponsoring organizations that will help teach you what has to happen. How do we enroll children? How do we take attendance and meal counts? What kinds of foods need to be served to meet the USDA meal pattern and qualify for reimbursement?
Yeah, it really isn't that hard. I mean, it was a while ago, when I first got started. When I was a home daycare, it was really easy because there were a lot of sponsoring agencies that would help walk you through everything. In my state, at the time that I applied, there really weren't any in my area that would help me at the center level. So I had to, apply just like a school. But they had coaches like right in the government that would help you, and there was a helpline, and it takes a little bit of time, and you gotta wade through some paperwork, but I mean it's like a small thing to do to get all this free money. And I know that in my case, the food program paid for all my food plus having a cook, that would do the shopping and handle all of the paperwork for me once we got it started. So it was a really great
and
benefit for
speaking
me.
of child care centers, let me
I
just
love
add
that.
this. There's no better time for a child care center to get started either. And here's why. What we know today is that more for-profit child care centers are going to qualify for the food program because we've had such a heavy investment in the child care subsidy program. There are more subsidized slots available for children in child care today. And we do know a couple of other things. Child care centers are lacking in qualified staff right now. They're really suffering from a lack of good qualified staff. So think about it like this. Joining the food program can help you offset the cost of retaining your staff, keeping that staff employed, and keeping them moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I was licensed for about 120 kids, and I mean, my monthly reimbursements were, in the thousands, mid thousands. So it really did cover the cost of the food and that's that kitchen member. But if you're not getting those funds right now, just imagine having all of that covered. So that way you can invest
Yes.
more in your team. So that's a really,
And
really
more
great
and more
point.
often, there are
Um,
unaffiliated center sponsors joining the program to help coach childcare centers. And so I would encourage you at any point that you want to help find one. We've even got lists on our website that can help you find a good qualified sponsor to help coach you. So don't give yourself a pay cut,
that's
right?
amazing.
Take advantage of all of the programs out there to make your program more profitable.
So another concern that I've heard, just in my conversations with other owners, is do you need to have a commercial kitchen or a full-time cook in
No,
order to take
absolutely
part?
not. That's one of the best parts about this. And hearkening back to what you were just sharing, you said that your CACFP reimbursement helped you offset the cost of a staff member to go shop for the food items, cook, prepare, and serve those meals to children. Two things about that that I find really interesting is now we have a number of shelf-stable products, even packaged meals that can be served, and it really is a benefit. If you want to market your childcare business, start telling parents that you're going to feed their child not only breakfast and maybe a snack or a lunch, but how about shifting that to the higher reimbursement of a dinner? And oftentimes I hear people say, oh, I don't want to serve dinner because it's right at the end of the day and parents want to have dinner with their children when they get home. That's true, but remember, we're talking about children who have tiny little tummies. It's likely that they can have a dinner in your childcare setting, helping them to make it through the commute home and not be maybe forcing mom and dad to consider stopping for fast food because their tummy is full. And now they've had time to get home, and either parents can spend time really focused on engaging with their child, reading books, helping them with learning activities, or just cozying up to spend time together rather than having to worry about rushing home to get a meal on the table to feed the child. So it really is a benefit to both the program as well as the parents and families.
That is definitely an outside the box idea. I love that. So when we talk about record keeping, um, and paperwork that is involved, how extensive is that? How long does it take somebody? What types of things would somebody expect to have to
Yeah,
keep
let's
track of
walk
when
through that.
joining?
So, a family childcare provider can only access the program through a sponsor. So, the sponsor is going to help them understand the enrollment forms that need to be completed. They're going to help them with tools and access to the meal pattern, what has to be included in a creditable meal, how to record attendance and meal counts, and then send that information to the sponsor to process. As a childcare center, there are a few more requirements. So think of it like this. Um, every child goes to school and fills out a free and reduced price application. You're either going to get a free lunch or reduced price lunch, or you're going to pay for your lunch. Same form is what is used in childcare centers to qualify the child for the food program. After that, it's really creating a menu that meets the USDA meal pattern, then taking attendance and meal counts. And centers are required to take them at point of service. And all that means is when Johnny meets his plate of food at the table, that's when you write down that he enjoyed that breakfast or that lunch. Just think of it as, hi, how do you do? I met my meal and now I've recorded it. Of course, we have technology at our fingertips now, so these things can be done electronically on a smartphone, tablet, PC, kind of any which way you'd like to record that information. And then that documentation is available. You are required to retain your records for 3 years plus the current year that you're working in. And having that digitally stored means you're always in compliance when your state shows up for a review.
Yeah, and we used to do like the little paper checklists. It's been a while since I owned a center, but I love that the app. My daughter has a home daycare, and she uses an app. Might actually be a Minute Menu
If it's
app.
not, let me get her started
Now
and
that I
show her
think about it,
KidKare accounting, because we also offer specific accounting software designed to fulfill the needs of a family childcare provider in their home. So we can not only help them with the food program record keeping and compliance to receive the highest level of reimbursement they're entitled to, but we can also help them to record all of their expenses and actually print out their tax forms at the end of the year. And thousands and thousands and thousands of providers all across the nation enjoy that feature of our software every single day.
wow, that's a great benefit. I love that. So, I mean, this is the Excellence in Childcare podcast by One Place. And our One Place, our tagline is best practice and compliance made easy. And when I was looking at the KidKare website, I'm like, oh my gosh, we make or CACFP compliance easy. And so it's almost like we're kind of on a similar mission, is that we want to make it easy for centers to have all of the documentation that they need, that they're in compliance with these important programs. How does KidKare make it easier for providers on the food
So, by
program?
offering electronic attendance and meal counts, electronic enrollment, and even guidance
Mm-hmm.
for parents to be guided through the income eligibility documentation. So, our parents can be invited into this, which also helps them understand what is the menu their child is receiving. What are the benefits of this really vital program that is impacting their own household? And by inviting them in through technology, we can guide them through this process so that they fill out the form in confidentiality. They don't feel like they're being invaded or like they're exposing themselves. We can electronically process all of that information. And then, in addition, our software is looking at the child data, the capacity data, the food data, the attendance data, the receipts of all of the purchases to ensure nonprofit food service. And at the end of the day, it knows intelligently how to configure that claim to maximize that reimbursement and make the center or the family daycare home more profitable. In addition, it'll account for all of the meals that you cannot claim on the food program, because there are some restrictions. You're only allowed to claim 2 main meals and a snack. But like we were talking about before, Cindy, that both you and I know, little tummies have to eat often. So there are oftentimes meals that are served that are not reimbursed that you can claim off your taxes as an expense. And so our software allows you to track all of that proactively and then have those necessary reports available to make sure that you're reporting exactly what's required.
That is a really great point. You know, some parents do have to work longer shifts, maybe fewer days, but longer shifts. So that child might get breakfast, lunch, snack, another snack, or a dinner. And so there would be, you know, a meal or a point of service that you wouldn't be able to claim. But it's a good point. You can claim it on your taxes, and that's a really great benefit. Definitely
Well,
making it easier for
like one
for
place,
providers.
compliance
Awesome.
shouldn't be difficult. Compliance has to be automated so that you're going about your day focused on teaching the kids, and compliance is happening in the
Mm-hmm.
background. So that's the beauty of working with technology through
Yeah.
One Place or through KidKare by Minute Menu.
And you know, compliance is really the bare minimum that you need to do. So when compliance is easier and your documentation of compliance is easier and takes less time, it
Yes.
allows you to focus more on quality and meaningful things that you know, I don't know, give you the warm fuzzies. You know, the reason we're in childcare. So
Or
that's
even
amazing.
on top of that,
Um,
Cindy, I'd add on to that, help you qualify for that higher quality rating in your state, meaning that then you can actually
mm-hmm.
increase your rates for your childcare program because you're demonstrating the high quality best practices that you and I both believe in.
I love it. Oh, I love it. So what are some of the most common compliance violations, and maybe how
Yeah,
could they be
that's a really good
avoided?
question. So oftentimes what we see is a high rate of three areas of, let's just say, missing or incomplete information. And they tend to happen around the enrollment or income eligibility form, which is why we created the e-forms process to help guide people through that and make sure that they know what information needs to be filled out. And we've had reports of error rates going from upwards of 10, 15 to 30% during an administrator review. And by utilizing e-forms, getting that down to less than 1% in their error rate, meaning they're actually capturing
Wow.
higher reimbursement too. Because if an enrollment or an income eligibility form is not complete and accurate, those meals have to be deducted off of your claim, and a site or a center can end up owing their state money back. Well, no one wants that. So by automating all of that, we've helped them to recapture some of that profitability. Two other areas. One is meal pattern. So the USDA has scientific information right from all of our best research, right, around what is a healthy, nutritious meal and snack. And they do work with many researchers to tell them exactly what is best to be being fed to our children. So meeting the meal pattern, oftentimes that is an area where folks get into trouble. Maybe they don't know that a potato is really a vegetable and not a starch or a grain. That's a common error. And so I would tell you that's one of the ways that I learned good, healthy nutrition is by going through this program and understanding it a little bit better. And then the third one would probably be attendance and meal counts. So making sure that you're accurately reporting who was in attendance today, what meal counts they had, and just creating that daily record keeping habit, because family daycare homes must record by the end of the day and childcare centers must record at point of service. And that's all because we have to, as a collaborative workforce, let's call it, this is taxpayer funding. So we need to make sure that even those that are participating in the program are abiding by where that taxpayer funding should be going. And that's the need for the record keeping.
Okay. Great. Now we mentioned earlier, you know, when we were talking all about how KidKare by Minute Menu can help track your CACFP paperwork. You mentioned also
We do.
that you do some accounting. Um, is there any other I don't know service or thing that KidKare tracks
Gosh,
that can
there's
help
just so
childcare business
much. I
owners?
don't know that we could cover it all in this amount of
Oh,
time, but I would tell you there's lots of things. We have built-in messaging systems that, for example, allowed our users during the pandemic to do sort of an outreach to their parents and survey their parents on the health of the children before they arrived into their childcare setting, which we think contactless information like that is really necessary in this industry, particularly coming out of this pandemic. So things like that we can keep track of. We're offering all kinds of webinars, bringing together industry experts from all around the industry to talk with our users about how to run a more profitable business, what policy agenda is out there that might impact my family daycare home or my childcare center. So there's a world of information, and we're also sort of amplifying the voices of the sponsoring organizations who are now offering more and more tools and resources and coaching to help the childcare industry really professionalize. And I would tell you that what we know right now is that the childcare industry has been left behind a little bit in its use of professional technology. And so there is this mission right now and funding sources available to help you professionalize your childcare business. And I think it's even family childcare providers knowing that they are a business, that they are a small business, and that America runs on the back of that small business. And so anything that we can do to support this vital industry helps every parent nationwide.
Isn't it interesting the way that the pandemic really helped to bring the importance and the necessity of quality childcare to the forefront, where I think people kind of dismissed it. I mean, I'm just talking general public, but and I'm not trying to point fingers at anybody, but like the funding is there. People all of a sudden were in crisis when schools had to close or limit their hours. And I think everybody realized how essential it was. And I love that all of this funding and professionalism, and I love how KidKare is really trying to support that in providers. So kudos to you guys.
We agree
for
with
that.
you. We agree with you. And coming out of that pandemic, let me just add this one other little final thought. We heard thousands of stories about family childcare providers continuing to use money out of their own family's pocket to create meals, creditable USDA compliant meals that they dropped off to their families to ensure that their little ones could continue to receive those high quality meals. Knowing they wouldn't be reimbursed, they sacrificed out of their own pockets to make sure children were fed. What's more inspiring than that?
Yeah, I mean, that is one of the biggest qualities of childcare providers and early education teachers is they have a huge heart, and they will give of themselves to the point of self-sacrifice sometimes in order to really care for the children. Because is it a business? Yes, but most of us did not get into the business for the business. Do we want to make money? Do we want to make profit? Yes, but that's not the main motivation. And I think that pandemic brought that to light as well.
They kept their small care settings open to be able to support our first responders because as the nation was shutting down and our first responders were hard at work making sure that they were staffing our hospitals and our medical facilities. Well, who was behind the scenes taking care of their children while they were working those long hours? It was the business of family childcare, and it was the childcare industry at large. And we owe them a lot.
Yes, we definitely do. So we are kind of getting close on our time. I'm just going to ask a couple of more questions because I'm loving this conversation. This is really, uplifting to me. But you have worked with a lot of centers over the years. I mean, you've been a part of it firsthand, being the owner of a couple of businesses. You've worked with other centers. Is there any bit of advice or wisdom that you could share with new owners or those that might be struggling right now, maybe, due to the pandemic, due to funding, due to the staffing shortage, any reason? What advice would you give to a new owner or a struggling owner?
I think the best bits of advice I've actually learned through a number of different childcare entities at different conferences that I've gone to. And I would say it's three things. Number one is don't try to go it alone. Don't allow yourself to be isolated. Basically reach out to those around you, myself included. You'll have information at the end of this podcast. If you have a question about the food program, if I can offer any connection or advice to you about an administrative review, anything like that, we're absolutely willing to help. But make sure that you get connected to others within the industry so that you don't try to go it alone. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. Rather, give someone the best compliment you possibly could by stealing their information with their permission and just replicating it in your own business. Two, the second one is make sure you're taking advantage of all the subsidy programs that are available to you and funding sources that are available, because there is no way to be profitable. And other businesses like farming businesses and other industries have always taken advantage of subsidies. Mirror those industries, take advantage of all of the subsidies that are available to you. And then the third thing is don't get discouraged ever. Start today, make tiny little progress each day, and then start to surround yourself with a brain trust of people who have gone before you. I like to call it your pathway of power, right? Go find those people out
Oh,
there that have the business dialed in a way that you really like, and ask them to mentor you. And don't just ask for their time. Be willing to give something back to them. Maybe it's you're going to volunteer in their center for, an hour a week in order to learn, something from this childcare setting that you admire. So I always say, go find those mentors, create yourself a brain trust outside of your normal network of folks so that you can gain access to different ways of approaching problems.
I love that. And that goes hand in hand with, what you said about, don't reinvent the wheel, glean from what other people have already done, get permission, and then tweak it a little bit to meet your own needs. It's kind of the same thing when you get a mentor, because you're like, okay, you've already been here and done that. What am I missing? What am I not seeing? And they can help you dive into that. So absolutely love it. Now, in the interest of creating more childcare centers of excellence, I mean, that we're both kind of on a mission to do that. What do you think is the biggest issue or hurdle facing childcare business owners today, and what
Yeah,
solution
I'm
might we
gonna
have
say
to
I'm
solve
gonna
the
say
issue?
that the biggest crisis we've seen is the lack of qualified staffing. And there are a number of different projects and initiatives in various states happening literally right now in order to programs that are being started at the junior college level in academics in order to encourage more people to just join into the industry. But if there is a lack in your specific area, and this is not my idea. I gleaned this from someone else, a childcare center, and if I knew her name right off the top of my head, I would say it. I would give her a little free publicity. But what she taught me was go out and look for volunteers as well. Um, AmeriCorps volunteers will often, for a small stipend, actually volunteer in your childcare setting. Go find yourself a retired person who might be willing to be the early morning riser that is there at the beginning of the day as your receptionist to greet the children warmly. You'd be surprised. Get outside of that idea that it always has to be a full-time employee you're looking for. Look for some family childcare providers who maybe want to explore working outside of their home now and will take on a part-time position if it's flexible around their schedule. There's lots and lots of ways to find quality staff. Go look at your colleges, go look at your high schools, go look at your places that people are looking for work and ask them if they wouldn't be willing to do it for a short period of time and then help them meet the qualifications.
I absolutely love that. Look for volunteers. I mean, you could even dive into, getting, either parents or grandparents or family members like willing to take on, they come in every Tuesday morning and they spend an hour and a half and they're just, helping, to greet and guide, families as they come in. So, and that is a really, really great idea. Do you have, I mean, this has been really great talking with you, and I'm kind of inspired. I can just kind of feel the type of person you are. So I'm sure that you have some kind of inspirational motto or quote that you
Oh my
kind of
gosh,
live
you
by.
just hit the nail on the head. If there is one quote that I think I live my life by, it is help others get what they want and you'll get what you want. So, and it's really so true. Give first. If you give first,
Mm-hmm.
people can't help but want to give back. And so I just think,
Yeah, it's the
yep, the
law of
law of
reciprocity.
reciprocity has
Love that.
always been something I live by. I think give of your knowledge, give of your expertise, give of your time and attention, just like you do the children. Give that to the parents, give that to your community, give that to the networks around you. I invited school teachers to come in and do a presentation on art, or do a musical event with my children. I could get volunteers from almost anywhere. And it was funny because as you went out and asked these professionals to come in and speak, they were honored to do so and didn't charge me a dime. And my children got exposed to art,
Mm-hmm.
to music, to science. It just was a wonderful experience, because who doesn't love to work with children? Who doesn't want to help the leaders of
Yeah,
tomorrow get inspired?
I love that. So give. So
Help
can you say it
others
again?
get what they want,
The
and
quote.
you'll always get what you want.
Do you want? That's great. Very true. Well, we are about wrapping up. If listeners wanted to contact you, where would they go? How would they
You can
find you? How
find
would they
me
get in touch with
everywhere,
you?
but the best way to reach me is at my email address, which is just my first name, Cindy, Cindy, at KidKare.com. And that's KidKare.com. I'm also on LinkedIn under Cindy Vian. And our main website is just www.KidKare.com. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear what you need from us.
Awesome. And we'll make sure to include that in our show notes as well. So thank you for providing that information. Cindy, it has been so great talking to you today. And I should mention, we're both Cindy's. I just spell mine with an S and you spell yours with a C. A lot of times people get mixed up and they think I'm Sydney, but I did that to myself with the way that I spelled it. Um, anyway, it's been great talking with you all about the food program, how it can help with quality, how it can help with your bottom line, how it can help you recruit and retain staff members. I mean, there's so many benefits to being on the food program. I thank the listeners for listening to this episode of the Excellence in Childcare podcast. Don't forget to subscribe so that you never miss an episode and you always know when the next one is coming out. Thank you so much, Cindy. It's been a pleasure having you here today.
Honor, Cindy.
All right.
Thank you
Bye-bye,
for inviting
everybody.
me. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Cindy. All right. Bye-bye, everybody.